All right, guys, our next guest needs very little introduction. The face that comes to mind when you think MMA and UFC, the former UFC champion, Hall of Famer, and also making big moves in Hollywood with a number of classic acting credits to his name. He returns to the big screen as Marcus alongside Luke Rockhold in Cagefighter Worlds Collide. The Iceman is in the house. Chuck Liddell, it's a real honor and pleasure to welcome you to Submission Radio.
How you guys doing, man?
Pleasure. The pleasure is all ours. A huge honor to have a legend like yourself on the program for the very first time. And of course, we got to say congratulations on the movie, Chuck. Fight TV made it available this past weekend for a short time, and people are really enjoying it. Just wondering, how was the experience of working alongside Luke Rockhold and a couple of big pro wrestlers and guys like Christian and obviously Jon Moxley in shooting this movie?
It was great. So it's good to see him. I hadn't seen him in a while. I hadn't seen Luke in a while. It was good to see him and have fun. We were having fun on the set. You know, you got to play kind of like he was being kind of a prick, so it was good. It was easy for him.
Well, Luke Rockhold was playing a prick in the movie, right? Not in real life.
Yeah. No, he's good. He's good at that. He's got that kind of sense of humor, giving someone a hard time. But yeah, he was playing like kind of like the ass of a coach, you know.
Mm. Well, Luke was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how much fun he had with you, being able to catch up, having a couple of drinks. Did you guys have any memorable moments outside of the shooting of the movie, being able to catch up, maybe go to a bar together, catch up with some of the other cast? Any memorable nights out?
Oh, we had some fun out. We had nights out. We did a little karaoke one night. That was kind of funny. But funniest thing with him, though, me and him went for we were walking to just go eat somewhere. We're just walking down the street. It was negative 25 Celsius, so we're like, let's let go cold, not bad. But we start walking, not bad. We're walking, and we were at the window our back, right? So we're walking, and we're talking. We got talking and catching up, and we walked past the place like 2 blocks. Like, finally, I'm like, man, this place is supposed to be really close. Like, where are we going? Like, as we looked at our map, I'm like, oh man, we gotta go. We're like, go back. Walking back against the wind in negative 25. I thought my face was gonna fall off.
Huh,
gee.
Like, I like the cold weather, but man, that wasn't cool.
The Iceman getting cold. That's unbelievable to us. Let me ask you this though, Chuck. You mentioned karaoke. Is the Iceman and Luke Rockhold, are they cutting up a song together? Did you guys perform?
Oh God, no, he didn't get up there with me. I got up there. I got up there and sang just because people always give me a hard time. They was like, hey man, come on, look, I'm not embarrassed. I just can't sing. I'm terrible. But so I get up there and I prove myself right. Go out there and show how bad my voice is. But it's kind of funny. I like singing. I don't mind. But it's terrible.
What was the song, just quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember which one. I did like 3 or 4 of them. I don't remember which ones we did. But I always get up there. Whatever. I'll play whatever. I don't care.
Hey, you must have been pretty decent if you're doing 3 or 4. It was repeat performances.
We come back up. We were just having a good time, man. I enjoy it. I have fun goofing off, and I love that voice. I dated a singer at one time, and she told me, basically said, is that how you really sing? You have to be tone deaf to sing that bad.
Well, obviously you picked the right career if that's what she's saying. I'm just wondering though, Chuck, what was it that sort of drew you to this movie though in the first place? What made you interested? And for those who haven't seen it yet, tell us a little bit about what the movie's about.
Well, I liked it because it was about a fighter's career, and like this kind of guy who's done really well. And this end of it. It had a lot of good elements to fighting. A lot of elements you see in real fighting. Like a real fighter's life. It had the him and the dynamic of his family, and then him and his coach, and then he's he wanted at the end of his career he was wanting to do something different than his coach wanted to, so he went to another coach, and then he had to come back, and then he came back. So I mean, it was a good story, and actually when they first brought it to me, I looked at it and I'm like, oh man, I really like this. It's a good story. Good. I think this got a shot at being a good movie, and but there was like a few little parts I wanted to correct, like the little things that bother, like technicalities that would bother a wrestler or bother a fighter. And So I called him. I'm like, look, hey, I'm having surgery. I'm not gonna be able to do the movie. I won't be able to do fight scene. It's 10. It was 10 days after. I think they started shooting 10 days after my second surgery, and I'm like, and I'm not gonna be able to do any fight scenes. He's like, well, actually, we actually wanted you to be the coach. So I'm like, oh, well, wait a minute. I can do the coach, and that got me more interested because it's still. I'm doing acting because I want to play a role. I want to play somebody else. I want to play something. And I thought that'd be perfect for that character. That'd be great. So that's why I liked it. It got me something to go out there and work on.
Is there if you had to sort of describe the movie in a couple of sentences to people who are excited to see it and haven't had a chance to see it yet, what would be a couple of words for you to sort of describe the experience of seeing this one?
It's a roller coaster ride with the guy's career. It's like a guy going through. It's an up and down movie where you follow a guy's career. I mean, it's exciting.
That's awesome. It's interesting, like the way you described that you want to play a character. I imagine in some ways it'd be kind of annoying if people are always hitting you up and being like, hey, we want you to play fighter X or fighter Z. And you're like, dude, I want to be an actor and I don't just want to play a fighter kind of thing. So I understand where you're coming from with the coaching. I was going to ask you though, Chuck, you've been in so many movies and so many projects like Entourage, by the way, to this day, one of my favorites. Cradle to the Grave, How High, Bobby Z, Kick-Ass 2, Workaholics. Is there sort of an actor or a movie apart from Cagefighter that stands out to you as like one of the favorites that you've worked on?
Favorites I work. I mean, it's kind of funny, but Entourage was probably my favorite. I worked so hard to get on. I asked everybody I knew to get on that show. I want to get on it. I want to be on it.
Why? Just out of curiosity, were you a big fan?
I was a big fan of the show, yeah. And I just wanted to walk out and say I had an event.
Huh.
They said, hey, well, if we're gonna have Chuck on here, we might as well throw him into the. And so I think they changed that skit for me, like the prank, you got Gaethje.
Yeah.
Prank was what they made that for me. So it was really cool. That was a lot of fun. Blue Mountain State was fun though too. I actually like those guys were great working with those guys. I had a lot of fun doing that one too.
And it really shows, like Casper mentioned, for us and a lot of the people watching that show, it was one of the highlights out of all the episodes and all the seasons. Let me ask you about this just quickly, Chuck. Obviously, the world was shocked when Paul Walker was gone, and you and him shared some scenes in Bobby Z. Do you have any memories that you can share with us from working with him? We imagine he'd be a big fan of yours because I believe he was a fight fan, wasn't he?
Yeah, he liked jiu-jitsu. He trained jiu-jitsu. He was actually just that thing I took away from him is he really down-to-earth guy. He was a cool dude, man. It was cool to everyone. And just talking about his philosophy about different things in the movie business and different things that talking to his buddy that he keeps with him that did the stunts and he's just a really down-to-earth cool guy.
Obviously, I want to talk to you about fighting as well, Chuck. Here we are talking about movies, but the vast part of your career was obviously spent in the octagon. You've got obviously so many amazing moments, obviously being a champion and some of the highlight reel knockouts. I'm just wondering, like when you look back on your career and your time in the UFC, what would you say would be like your top 2 or 3 moments that stand out to you as your favorite?
Well, the first one, if I get asked this quite a bit, and I think about it. The first one I always come back to. It's hard to say because there's so many great times and fun times and different things that I really enjoyed doing. But I think it comes down to winning the title the first time, UFC 52 against Randy. Having a loss, I just won we just won the season, Ultimate Fighter, and then go out and win by knockout. The way I like to win, and get that title I've been looking for the longest time.
It's interesting though because it was the 15th year anniversary of your fight with Randy, UFC 52 last month. And just speaking of that night, because you mentioned it's your favorite, what kind of conversations do you and Randy have when you look back on that night? Because we know you guys have been in movies together. You have a movie coming out together that recently came out. Do you ever sort of sit down together and talk about your fights and the rivalry that you guys had and looking back on those special moments?
It's funny. I think I've talked to him about a lot of things. Trained guys with them, gone and trained with them, worked out with them, hung out with them, partied with them, done all sorts of things. And I don't think we've once sat down and talked about the past of us fighting.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's something common between fighters when once they fight, if they're friends, they just don't really talk about the fight?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, for me it is. I've never really gone back. It's kind of like it's a past. We did it. We know who won. It was over. It was one of those things. You did it. I don't know. I guess I'm not that interested in talking about it. It never comes up. It's just we always talk about other things.
Unbelievable moments in the history of MMA. I mean, you had so many great fights in the octagon. If Chuck Liddell from 2020 could give one piece of advice to Chuck Liddell back then around 2000, 2003, 2005, what do you reckon it would be?
Oh, man, one piece of advice. I just tell people, I just enjoy the moment, man. It's, it was a great ride, and I tried to do it all the time. I enjoy my moments and the time doing it because sooner or later it's going to end. But I really just tell myself to do what I did. Have a good time and do what you love.
I know you said Randy was one of your favorite moments, I guess because of the title win. But when you look at all the guys that you fought, who would you say was the toughest test? Was it Randy, or was there somebody else that sticks out to you as just the toughest fight you've ever fought?
Well, it's hard to pick a toughest fight. I fought a lot of really tough guys, and there's guys that beat me, and I still wish I could have another chance at them. I always thought, I knew what I did wrong. I could fix that. But there's a lot of great fighters. I mean, I couldn't pick just one. But Randy is one of the guys that was the thing. He beat me, and I needed to figure it out and come back and beat him, and I was able to. So.
There's so many epic fights in the octagon, but there's also, of course, the epic story that Pep Miletich told about the infamous bar brawl in England in 2002 after UFC 38. And I know you must get sick of people asking you this question, Chuck, but since we got one chance to speak to you here, Pat said that once this brawl erupted, you had your back against the wall and you were knocking out whoever came at you. And Tito Ortiz fought Lee Murray. Apparently, Lee knocked Tito down and stomped him in the head with his boot. I'm just wondering, what do you remember for that crazy night in England in 2002? And do you remember how many people you ended up knocking out that night?
I thought the number was around 5.
Wow.
I told as high as 7 or 8, but I mean, I know how to fight in groups. I mean, big brawls. I grew up fighting a lot, and I know how to fight, and I hit hard. So, about him, I don't know what happened. And by the way, I think Miletich took off. So, I mean, I don't know. Everyone's got different memories of the night. I didn't see Tito and Murray square off at all. All I know is Tito was up and chasing it and trying to go after him when the cops showed up.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, my funniest story for that is I had a guy back here a few years ago when I was doing interviews for Glover fighting Jon Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked me, so okay, I waited, whatever it was, 10, 11 years for this. I was there that night, and I saw you knock out X amount of guys, and I have to ask you this question: when the cops showed up, when you walked away with that girl, did you know the girl? I'm up. No, man, I've been this a long time. When the cops showed up, I knew everyone was. I was there. I was just trying to help out a buddy, so I didn't want someone to get hurt. And when the cops showed up, it was all over. Everyone's safe. Now it's time for me to get out of here. I just put my arm around the first girl I saw. I said, "Hey, do you want to go get breakfast?" And just walked right by the cops. I was the only guy not detained by the cops. So. They had to talk to the cops all night, so I got to go home. So it was funny.
Do you want to get breakfast?
So I know for sure he was. When he said he was there for sure, I know for sure he was there because that's exactly what I did. As soon as I heard the cops showed up, like I said, I fought a lot growing up. When the cops showed up, you learn how to disappear.
And did you guys get breakfast? You and that girl?
Oh yeah, I took her out to breakfast.
Oh man, that's awesome. What a story. You got breakfast and I'm sure more with some girl, and everyone else was stuck talking to the cops. Jesus, what a good trade. What a good trade for Chuck Liddell. I wanted to ask you before we let you go, Chuck, just a few questions obviously on the current landscape. When you sort of look at the light heavyweight division now, what do you think is the biggest difference between this era and sort of when you were fighting, when you were champion? Is there any guy that stands out to you that you sort of look at and go, man, like, I wish he fought in my era because that would have been a fun matchup?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one. I wish Jon Jones was there when I was there. I think I'd match up well against him styles-wise. I would have given him a lot of trouble. So, I mean, I really would like to shot at that one.
It's interesting now because Jon's had a bit of scrutiny outside of the octagon, but also inside the octagon. Many people believe he lost to Thiago Santos. Maybe people believe he lost to Dominic Reyes. What are your thoughts on Jon Jones in 2020? Do you think people have just sort of figured him out? And do you think he'll remain champion for the foreseeable future?
We'll see. I mean, it depends. I don't know. I think Dominic, I thought Dominic Reyes beat him too, but by a little bit. It was one of those fights where I say, you can't get mad about the decision. I mean, it could have gone either way. It's just deciding how you scored the third round. You know, so and it was close enough. You can't really complain. But I mean, yeah, guys are getting closer, getting better at getting closer at beating them. We'll see. You know, he seems to be having problems holding on to it outside of the cage. And I think that's his biggest problem. He's his biggest problem. You know, so.
What do you think about when you see him talking about heavyweight and Francis Ngannou? These guys have been going back and forth, especially the last few days. How do you see him and Ngannou going potentially, especially with Ngannou's knockout power?
Hey, Ngannou's that's a tough fight. I don't know if Jon goes up, if he thinks he can take. I think he's gonna have to control the wrestling part of it. If he can, you know, it could be a lot of trouble for Ngannou if he's stuck standing there and getting punched. Ngannou hits hard.
One of the things we wanted to quickly get your thoughts on as well in regards to Jones is there's a guy down our way in New Zealand, in Israel Adesanya, who's taken the world by storm, and now him and Jones are talking about a super fight in the future. And I'm just wondering, what do you think of this Israel Adesanya, Jon Jones potential matchup? Because you're a man that knows striking better than most, and Israel Adesanya could arguably be one of the best strikers in the company right now. How do you see a matchup like that going, even though, you know, Israel is the middleweight champion?
It's one of those things that seems like Jon's been having a little trouble with the guys coming up from 185s. Maybe speed's a problem for him. I don't know. But you know, Adesanya, I mean, if Jon's able to control the wrestling, it was able to take him down and control that and control where the fight's fought, he could be in a lot of trouble. But Israel's tough, man. I like him. I like them going back. I like them going back and forth. It's kind of funny.
What do you like about it? It's just the entertainment, the trash talk.
It's entertaining. Those guys are entertaining back and forth. I think they give it a little more time. They can make a big fight out of it.
It's funny. It's funny because Jon at one point didn't really have too many sort of fresh opponents, and now everyone's coming after him. You got Israel, you got Dominic Reyes for the rematch, you got Francis Ngannou. I mean, if not that Jon Jones would necessarily move down to middleweight, but if you had to choose between Israel versus Jon Jones or Jon Jones versus Ngannou, which one sort of would get you more excited, Chuck?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think they both have their allures, but I mean, I like to see. I don't know. Actually, I don't know which way I'd like to see him go. I mean, I like if he's gonna go heavyweight, get used to being up there and take a warm up fight if he's gonna do that. But it's never not go straight up and take one of the top guys. But we'll see.
Mm. Before we stop talking about the sort of striking battles in the UFC, we have to talk about a fight that kind of reminds us of your matchup with Wanderlei Silva back in the day when you and Wanderlei met. People were saying two of the baddest strikers, two of the most dangerous guys, and now you've got Justin Gaethje, and he's sort of on the path to fighting Khabib. But the big fight as well that people are looking at is what happens if a guy like Justin Gaethje meets up with a guy like Conor McGregor, who's also an unbelievable striker. I mean, just wondering, what would you make of that matchup if it does happen one day, Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor? Is there someone in your mind that you believe would win that battle? It's just such a hard fight to even break down.
Well, I think Conor's a better technical striker. I mean, and they both have power, heavy power. So, but I think you gotta lean towards McGregor in that fight just because of the striking. I mean, he's a more technical striker. I think he land more. But we'll see. I mean, if that happens, we'll see.
I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch UFC 249, but based on what you saw from Justin Gaethje, how much of a threat do you think he could be to Khabib Nurmagomedov if that fight ends up being the next one for him?
I don't know. I have to watch more of his fights for that. See a little different. I thought Tony could give Khabib a run for it, but styles make fights. I was worried about Tony fighting someone like Gaethje or even Conor. He could cause him some problems, but I don't know.
It's definitely a very interesting matchup. Before we wrap up, we've got to get your thoughts on another legend and a guy that you respect and love yourself, and Mike Tyson making this comeback at 53 years young. What was your reaction when you saw some of this footage of him hitting pads and saying that, hey, I'm making a comeback and I'm going to have some exhibition fights and I'm going to come back for a few more?
Oh, hey, man, whatever he wants, man. He looked in great shape. He looks like he's been working out, and I think before he decided to announce something, he got ready, so he looked good. He's still got it. If he wants to get out there and do some exhibition matches or, and do some stuff, it'd be great.
It's a funny thing because, like, with retirement MMA, it's like this ongoing joke that fighters retire only until they come back again. And obviously, you're no stranger to returns as well. What do you think is sort of one of the keys, like when you do come back from a long layoff, especially in the case of a guy like Mike Tyson?
I don't know if I'm the one to be issuing keys for late comebacks. He knows where he needs to be and how he needs to feel and what he needs to do. So you get out there and he'll know. I mean, he'll know what he needs to do. Tyson's been doing this for way too long to worry about. He'll worry about whether or not he's ready or not.
I guess the big question is who he'll fight. Is there anybody in your mind that you would like to see Mike make this comeback against? We saw Evander Holyfield is making a comeback as well. I mean, it's like boxing in the 90s and the 80s all over again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen some funny memes and stuff, but it'd be cool. I'll watch it. No matter who he fights. If Tyson fights again, I'll watch it. I just out of nothing else, out of sheer good memories, from the old days watching him fight.
No, absolutely. And I mean, as we wrap up, Chuck, I mean, you've got the new movie, Cagefighter Worlds Collide. But just before we just remind everybody how they can check the movie out, obviously you mentioned you've had a couple of neck surgeries and you've had a few things that you've gone through. You've never sort of put officially an end to the fight career, but you played a coach in this movie. You've enjoyed being able to have all this acting and all these other careers in your life. Do you imagine yourself coming back to fight one more time, or would you be sort of content to stay in Hollywood and do some of these other roles that you've sort of been working on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll be back again. You never say never, but I don't think I might do some wrestling, do some jiu-jitsu, but I think I'm gonna hang it up. But I enjoy doing the movies. I kind of more concentrating on doing other things right now.
Okay, well, the movie is Cagefighter Worlds Collide. It will be released in cinemas later this year, but you can actually check it out on fight.tv. See Chuck Liddell, Luke Rockhold, and a bunch of great actors and pro wrestlers. Mix it up. We can't wait to see it officially out in the cinemas, Chuck, when this whole thing blows over, because it needs to be seen on the big screen. But for now, it's www.fight.tv. Of course, follow Chuck on Twitter at Chuck Liddell and at Cagefighter Movie. Chuck, it's a real honor and pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you so much for kind of coming on. A great movie, and we can't wait to see what's next, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Take it easy.